isn't it? If you are good at certain language, but you don't know
Request to
how to
keep
talk,
your mics on mute, please.
we don't want to be in any of the situations. We want knowledge at the same time. We should.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good
Good afternoon,
afternoon,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Do we have anyone from the PIT?
Good afternoon,
Good
everyone.
afternoon. Good afternoon, Dr. Jindal. How are you?
Hello, ma'am. Dr. Prabodh
Hello.
here.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Mr. Prabodh. How are you?
I'm good, ma'am. I'm good. I'm good.
BC साहब कैसे
Thank
हैं?
you.
So, what's the format? Will someone from DPIT start the ball rolling, or
Madam, we will be starting at 4 and we will have our moderator starting the session.
okay?
He will be setting the ground rules and inviting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Very good evening, ma'am, and very good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Ramanandan Shukla, Director with the Z Division of Quality Council of India. And I welcome you all to the today's Manthan on quality and productivity in the food processing sector. As we all know, the food processing industry provides a vital linkage between the industry and agriculture, and therefore it is of enormous significance for India's development. Not only this, this sector also provides a huge employment generation potential. On the global arena, if you look at, India is the sixth largest food processor in the world. However, our share in exports has been between 2.2 to 2.6% in last few years, which also reflects a huge potential in the sector. And therefore, today's Manthan will focus on how quality and productivity in the food processing sector can become the key pillars of growth for this industry. We are very grateful to have with us JS ma'am, Ms. Rima Parekh, Joint Secretary with Ministry of Food Processing India. And I request her to set up the context for today's deliberations, after which our moderator, Mr. Piruz Khambata, will take over. Over to you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shukla, and a very good afternoon to everyone. At the onset, let me thank the Department of Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade for organizing this Manthan. It's a mythical concept where there is a churning, and the churning gives birth to the, Amrit, which is in the Indian mythology, gives you eternal life. So in this series of webinars, the Manthan should lead to identification of issues and probable solutions so that we are able to promote productivity, quality, and their interlinkages in the Indian industry. This session is devoted to food processing. And again, I would like to thank the department for including food processing in this series of webinars that they are organizing, because the need for identification, need for improvements, improving the systems in the food processing sector for quality is immense, and it is a challenge which we are constantly struggling with. Hopefully, by the end of this session, we would have a better understanding of the pain points and also have some idea about the probable solutions. We have so many luminaries from the industry representing the diverse sector to help us on this path of self-discovery. And I'm very excited to hear from them their perspective about the quality management in this sector. But before we do that, let me give a brief background of the food processing sector and the latest developments pertaining to the sector, the highlights of this sector in the last 1 or 2 years. The food processing sector is one of the leading contributors in the growth of Indian economy, as Dr. Shukla just mentioned. It creates a direct linkage between the rural economy and the industry and has emerged as a champion sector, making it one of the largest industries in India. Because it is one of the champion sector is why it is also included in the series of webinars. The sector has rightfully received the thrust in recent reforms taken by the Government of India, as you all must have seen. Despite several adversities due to COVID-19, the sector has shown its resilience and has maintained continuous functioning to ensure continuous food supply to the entire population. And it's no mean achievement. The sector also caught the attention of foreign investors, due to which we witnessed FDI growth at 44% in 1920 over previous year. Honorable Prime Minister has invited the entire country for inclining towards vocal for local to realize the goal of self-reliant Atmanirbhar Bharat. India has the enabling ecosystem to successfully implement this vision, as the country, as we all know, has a very rich raw material base, being the largest producer of milk and second largest producer of horticulture crops and fish in the world. It is also the largest producer, consumer, and exporter of spices and spice products. Government of India has recently announced various reforms under the Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, giving a big boost to the agri-food sector of the country and reiterating government's strong partnership approach to build trust amongst all stakeholders from farm to fork. Some of these initiatives are, if I can mention a few, the One India, One Agriculture market through recently introduced farm bills. These intend to empower farmers in engaging with processors, wholesalers, aggregators, large retailers, exporters, to name a few. Development of farm gate infrastructure financing facility of about 13.24 billion US dollars is to be provided for funding agriculture infrastructure projects at farm gate and aggregation point to develop affordable and financially viable post-harvest management infrastructure. The amendment of Essential Commodities Act, that was also a big game changer. The Animal Husbandry Infrastructure Development Fund with about 2 billion US dollars aiming to support private investment in dairy processing, value addition and cattle feed infrastructure. The Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana for filling up critical gaps in the fisheries value chain. The Operation Greens, which is one of the flagship projects of Ministry of Food Processing, which aims to develop in an integral manner the tomato, onion, and potato sphere. And the scheme has been recently extended to all fruits and vegetables. It's now from called total instead of top, with allocation of about 66, about 500 crores. The Pradhan Mantri formalization of micro food enterprises, the PM FME scheme, is to be implemented over a period of 5 years from 2021 to 24-25, with an outlay of about 10,000 crore for technological upgradation of existing micro food processing units. The PLI scheme is being under approval with a financial outlay about 10,000 crores for enhancing India's manufacturing capabilities and exports. The Ministry of Food Processing also provides further support under the umbrella package of Pradhan Mantri Kisan Sampada Yojana, implemented with an original outlay of 6,000 crores in the 15th Finance Commission cycle for creation of modern infrastructure with efficient supply chain management from farm gate to retail outlet. Plethora of schemes such as Mega Food Park, Unit Scheme, Cold Chain, Agro Processing Cluster and all are implemented under this umbrella scheme. The food processing sector of the country is majorly MSME oriented, providing employment to a large number of people. These reforms hopefully will aid in creating future ready and globally competitive MSME ecosystem, transforming it over the next several years. This will encourage private investments in the sector, thus resulting in the creation of enabling infrastructure, establishment of manufacturing units of value-added commodities, better price realization for farmers, reduction in wastage of perishable commodities, and strengthening of agri-value chain. To attract investments and showcase the business-friendly environment in India, government has recently set up the empowered group of secretaries and project developments LPDCs in each ministry and department for attracting and supporting domestic as well as foreign investments. These bodies will bring synergies and ensure timely clearances of projects from different ministries and departments, assure policy stability and consistency in the overall investment environment, attracting investments and facilitating the same. Can I request everyone to mute their mic, please?
Please mute your mics.
Can I request the host to mute? The ministry also has a dedicated investment facilitation cell with Invest India to facilitate all cross-ministry issues for easy resolution and improvement of ease of doing business in the food processing sector in a structured manner. We also, Ministry of Food Processing also works very closely with FASAI, and we are part of their governing body. We are there in each of their meetings and represent industry interests and are able, there's always an attempt to facilitate and give voice to the industry in the FASAI if there are any quality issues. These steps are imperative and would be beneficial in bringing a positive change for the industry. I urge you all to take advantage of these initiatives, and in case there are any issues regarding quality or any issues regarding cross-ministry issues, then to reach out to the PDCs for easier and faster resolution. However, coming back to the subject of the day, all these announcements and steps taken by the Government of India and MOFPI would fail to have its impact if there were not enough quality testing infrastructure, if adequate standards for food safety were not set by FASAI, if adequate monitoring did not take place to ensure implementation of these standards. We all know for sure that our exports would not increase if we do not meet international quality standards. Let me mention a few broad issues that are needed to maintain the quality ecosystem in India. There is need for synergy between various departments. MOFPI is enabling the creation of infrastructure. We have a scheme called under which we support setting up of food testing labs for creation of infrastructure to ensure various aspects of the total quality management TQR, such as quality control, quality system, and quality assurance. However, the regulations are laid down and monitored by FASAI. There is need for more institutionalized synchronization between the various departments involved in implementing the quality ecosystem in this country. I would also like to mention about the regional disparities. In current scenario, there are a lot of regional disparities in terms of available infrastructure for ensuring total quality management. For example, food testing labs for exports, etc. Solutions to address the same needs to be discussed and immediate actions are required to reduce the disparities. Offhand, I'd like to mention, like for instance, western and southern part of India have more testing labs as compared to the eastern and northeastern part, reflecting in a gap which needs to be filled, so that the country has a uniform quality standard. Food processing industry is majorly dominated by MSMEs, and a study was done by World Bank for our ministry some about a few years ago, which showed that this sector was a predominantly informal and unorganized, meaning that they were not complying with quality standards and were mostly operating kind of under the radar. With an aim to provide financial, technical, and business support for upgrading these microfood enterprises, the ministry launched the scheme. I mentioned it earlier, PMFME, with an outlay of 10,000 crore, so that the global standards and quality are implemented amongst these micro enterprises. Hopefully, this will lead to upgradation of 2 lakh micro enterprises who would then be complying with the established quality standards. The PMFME scheme, once implemented, is going to be a game changer for quality standards in the food processing sector. Another issue which I would like, the last point that I'd like to make is about the skill gap in ensuring implementation of quality standards. Techniques and tools that are instrumental in improvising knowledge on all aspects of food safety with regard to food handling, production, processing, and its utilization needs to be given more emphasis. We have 2 institutes, and the Vice Chancellor of one of them, NIFTAM, is here with us, and I'm really looking forward to hearing his point of view on this. These 2 institutes, NIFTAM and IFPT, under the aegis of MOFPI, are working with all the stakeholders across the value chain from farm to fork for developing the skill set required in the industry, but still there's a long way to go. With these points, I'd like to hand over the mic to Mr. Khambata to take the discussion forward. And I myself am going to be in the audience because I need to hear this to see which direction we are going and how we are going to achieve this. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Mr. Khambata, we are not able to hear you, please.
We still can't hear you.
Am I heard?
Yes.
Thank you. And I listened to the Joint Secretary's presentation. I'm quite happy that she has covered a lot of other issues which I was going to cover. But I think, let me put it this way, that in recent times we have seen the best part of both the industry and more so the government. And I think the government has really partnered us. A friend in India is a friend in need. So I think industry needed the government to be with us during the pandemic. And I'm very happy that right from the glossy days of the lockdown till today, they have been handholding us. And not only that, what I have been saying in almost all the forums recently, that the government has actually used this opportunity to catalyze reforms which were pending since long. And we just heard about the productive incentive scheme, about the top scheme, about the fact that subsidies have been now announced for even transportation of vegetables to the food train, and a lot of new things which have come up. And I think it is all music to the ears of the industry. Having said that, of course, this whole session is on quality, and I'm going to take that and I'm going to moderate it. But the whole country is talking about one thing, and I have to talk of it before I start the session, and that is the farm laws. And actually, I was in part of many debates, and the debate is not the industry versus the farmer or the government versus the farmer. The debate has to be: do you want to take the country forward with reforms, or do you want to take it backward? And if you want to take it backward, on for whom we should take it, for which vested interest? So I honestly believe that we have got industry captains also here. We have our government here, and I think we need to really educate people more through such webinars and messages and through the social media. A lot of us are on social media platforms. Maybe between us, we share probably 1 million followers, thousands of followers on tweets. Let us spread the message that these farm laws actually, number one, are for the farmer. Number two are for the consumer, who will get a better price and a better quality. The farmer will get a better realization. And last, maybe for industry. And actually, the industry wants to partner with the farmers in taking this further. Having said that, now coming to the context of this session, this Udyog Manthan has been something which is a great initiative. Especially, I should laud the efforts of our Minister of Commerce and Industry, Mr. Piyush Goyal, who has actually made it possible to happen. And I'm told there are 49 webinars over 46 sectors. I think this is a great thing. And I'm very happy that I am part of it. And I'm also very happy that I have got the opportunity to moderate this session, especially because we have got a very, very good lineup of speakers. And almost all of them I know personally. And it is my great honor to really be part of such a session where we have got such lineup of speakers. And I would like to introduce them, and then possibly we can have a 5 minute session from each one of them. To start with Mr. Dave, whom I know since I started into business, and he was the gentleman who used to head EPIDA, and this gentleman changed the nature of the food exports from India. And I can say that practically because I have been a benefactor of Mr. Dave's schemes, of his foresight, and he was a go-to man. Whenever he was in office, he had a ear for industry's problems. He really helped the industry in a big way. And then he has become a consultant to various foreign forums. And very, very important, he held the post of the chairperson of Codex from 2011 to 2014. We are very proud of him, and we are very happy that he is here with us today. And then I would also like to introduce Dr. Renny Van Berkel, who is the UNIDO representative from the UNIDO regional office in India. And we all know the role which United Nations Industrial Development Organization plays. And I'm very sure they have a huge interest in quality of food from India. And I'm very much happy he's going to speak today. Then we have Dr. Subodh Jindal, who also probably knows, and I know him since probably I was a kid. And he has been an entrepreneur in India in various food processing. He has been a voice of Indian industry since long. He is also the president of All India Food. He is part of various committees of the government of India. And he actually does what we all industry want. He actually ensures that the voice of the industry is heard at the various forums in the government. Dr. Chindi Vasudevan, who is the VC of NIFTM, and Ms. Nirima Prakash just mentioned about the fact that we are very, very proud of NIFTM. And I think the government that has come out with this Institute of Excellence, I would say, in academics. And I am also very proud that I am associated with them. And Dr. Vasudeva himself has so many degrees and so many laurels to his. I think his career goes on. And I'm sure we are going to hear much about him from the college in India. Dr. Preeti Paliwal, she is the Assistant Vice President and Product Services TU SUD Group. And of course, everybody knows about TUV. And I always have been saying that there's a huge role to be played between the industry and the academia, and most important, the testing labs. And I think the TUs of the world, they assure that the Indian products are tested well and the foreign buyers have confidence in the Indian products. And I'm very happy that she is part of us today in this quality session. And Dr. Halde, he is also a member of the industry. He has been past president of Association of Food Scientists and Technologists. He has been involved in a lot of industry efforts. I and him have worked closely on various regulatory things. He is very strong on regulatory affairs. So we have got a very good speaker lineup. Before I start, I invite the speakers to really come up with their thought on the whole subject. I would like to say a very important thing. One, I have possibly participated in all Gulf Foods, which is fair in Dubai. I was actually, the earlier session was with the Dubai foreign minister only. It is still going on. I just came out. And why I'm talking of Gulf Food is because Gulf Food has become some sort of what I call benchmark for Indian food exports. Maybe in the early 90s, there were only 10 or 20 companies participating. 50, 60, 80. Now lately 500, 700. Actually, half the Gulf Food is India food. I would say they should call it India food only. They should not call it Gulf Food. Now, what is important is, is my voice clear? I got some chat that my voice is not clear.
I think it's clear to us.
Okay. So why I'm bringing this topic is there was a time when possibly if you wanted the cheapest food, you went to the Indian stalls. So fine, here is it. Now the reverse is true. If you want the best food, here is the Indian stall. If you want quality food, Indian stall. And I always have been saying When you make food as a manufacturer, you are making it as for your own children. I have got 4 children. So for me, when I make anything in the factory or in the lab, it has to be good enough for my own kids, then good enough for anybody's kids. And I believe for us, quality is more important than just value. And today I'm very proud to say that when people want better quality products, they come to Indian store. Let us say honey, for example. Why I'm saying honey is India's honey exports have really grown in the few years. So Chinese, of course, is a big player, but if you want quality honey, if you go to Dubai, they'll say, okay, buy Indian honey. So I think we are very proud about the fact that Indian quality standards have also increased, and the government has supported us, the central government, state governments, in really improving our standards. Quality Council of India has supported us, other government organizations have supported us. And I put my message is I'm sure going to speak later also. But my first message is all of us in India should take a vow. And this vow, I'm talking manufacturers, is not because the government wants it. And I always believe law cannot make you do things, you should do it for your own self. That happens to CSR also. And I always believe in self-regulation. Self-regulation is more important than any imposed law. I believe we should always ensure that the products we export are the quality products, and let us not make India the destination of what I call cheap products, but the best and quality products. Having said that, I would now like to invite Mr. Dave, the former chairman of Codex, to really start his thought process because he is the right man. He will also give the context of this whole thing and almost pull the and also plug the holes which I have probably in my speech. Dr. Dave, please.
Thank you for your kind introduction. Namaste, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to thank QCI for invitation on processing, and I'm honored to be in the company of such illustrious panelists. Friends, we have learned a lot from this dirty COVID and how this has suffered. You all know that. It's a big lesson. By virtue of the initiative taken by the DP, IIT, UCI, we are doing some Manthan to make our nation an Atmanirbhar Bharat. And I would like to congratulate the organizers for organizing this series of sector-wise discussion. We've discussed toys. We'll be discussing pharma in a few days. But remember, today we will focus our discussion in the area of food processing. Ladies and gentlemen, India is fairly self-sufficient insofar as the availability of food grains and fruits and vegetables is concerned. Food quality and safety enhances food security through prevention of food wastage and also provides better market access opportunities. Ingredients are greatly required for improving the shelf life of food, and their production and quality are equally important. In my limited experience of about 45 years, and having worked in the Indian Embassy in Brussels to promote India's agri-business in the European Union, and having been the chairperson of Codex, I can confidently say that implementation of best practices, and I repeat, best practices at every stage of the value chain will be critical for growth in our food businesses. You might recall that FSSAI, and I like to call it FSSAI and not FSSAI, started harmonization of food standards with international standards in January 2013 and completed the process in 2016 and continues to upgrade them. This is extremely important. Alignment with international standards in the mainstream is extremely important. But please remember that global business is moving away from product certification to process certification. And so the industry will need to supplement the FSSAI regulations with the implementation of best practices starting from the field, that is good agricultural practices, good veterinary practices, good animal feeding practices at the primary production level, and then good manufacturing practices, HACCP in case of high-risk products, good transport practices, good storage practices, good retail practices at the post-harvest level. Even after for that, we have no options. There is no option. I have seen this globally. If we have to make a global mark, and QCI can play a role in ensuring all these. It is their responsibility. Let's take the example of Mother Dairy. It sells about 500 metric tons of fruits and vegetables every day in Delhi alone. Can we not encourage them to start GAP implementation and sell certified products from the 400 plus outlets and replicate this model in other states? Can we do that? Please take it from me. It will create a huge awareness amongst consumers and build a culture for food quality and safety. Similarly, Ministry of Food Processing Industries, Department of Agriculture, and the export promotion bodies can come together to provide development support in clusters and set targets for this. And Ms. Rima Prakash just outlined certain initiatives that have been taken. Friends, please remember that India's credibility in food business will come from implementation of these practices with traceability. And I don't hesitate to say blockchain. Global trends are changing. I have been working with the STDF, the Standards and Trade Development Facility of the WTO until now. It provides funding support to developing countries for agribusiness, and I have been representing Asia in the STDF. Proposals that are supported implementation of best practices. India will have to keep up with the pace of these changing trends. We should remember that competing countries are implementing and importing countries are preferring to source food products from countries that have institutionalized implementation of these practices. Otherwise, our market share will get eroded. We should not forget that if a market is lost, it will be extremely difficult to bring it back. And just imagine the cost of non-compliance. Let me now make a few other concrete suggestions for growth of our food processing industry. I'm happy that Mr. Rima Prakash mentioned that she will be present throughout the day. Point number one, let us get into the manufacture of several food ingredients and additives that we generally import. We should develop clusters for quality production of these items. It will also increase employment. Secondly, we must continue to focus on value addition. Let us not remain a supplier of raw material to the developed world. We can even help countries in our region and procure raw material for adding value for the domestic market as well as for exports. Thirdly, let us not forget that rapid urbanization is taking place. Therefore, revenue from agriculture will come only from value addition. This vision will come not just from food processing, but also from creating a brand image for our Indian food products. Our respected Prime Minister Modi has repeatedly spoken about this. Brand image is important. Another important point. One should consider modulating import duties to promote value addition, to promote processing. And Ministry of Food Processing can take the lead in this. Let me explain this by giving an example of mangoes, which are produced in India in large quantity. We have to look after the interest of our farmers, but we also have to allow imports. So for mangoes to be imported, the import duty can be structured in a manner that will reduce import duty for processing varieties. Also for the table varieties that do not conflict with the mango season. And this period will have to be defined for levying import duties. Import duty can also be structured based on the price of such varieties to ensure that raw material is available to our food processing industry at competitive prices on a regular basis. This will enable processing facilities to operate round the year and also provide value addition. These have industrialized themselves in food business without hindering imports. QCI needs to be strengthened with more people and responsibilities, and supported by all the concerned ministries for skill development in implementing the best practices along the quality, along the value chain for quality management systems that I explained a few minutes ago. All these are relevant for quality and safety of food products, which also reduce wastage and decrease this burden of the government. Even the trainers that have come up in India over the past 2-3 years need an appropriate quality management system. Our export promotion bodies should be made more responsible for guiding procedures, implementation of quality and safety programs, cluster development, value addition for exports, and bilateral equivalence. Rather than simply displaying posters and papads, pickles, rice, mango pulp, some ready-to-eat items in trade fairs. Nutraceuticals, food supplements, health supplements of all kinds, food additives, products based on nanotechnology, for instance, are an emerging field. But there is no organization looking after their export promotion interests. There is also a critical need for the export promotion bodies to invest in country-specific market research. I'm repeating, country-specific market research. Some out-of-the-box thinking will be required. One suggestion is that our export promotion bodies and Ministry of Food Processing Industries could collaborate and organize sector-specific brainstorming sessions with a structured agenda for growth in value addition and quality with actionable outcome. Senior officers, and I'm happy to see Prakash present here, but they must always be present throughout the deliberations. And friends, government should support private sector investment in research for creation of new varieties of fruits and vegetables, which can be marketed in India and abroad. Plant breeders in developed countries keep bringing out new varieties of fruits and vegetables and try in consumer preferences to remain in business. This will give a boost to our Make in India program. Ladies and gentlemen, I have some more ideas, but I think I will pause here due to time limitations. If some of these thoughts can be considered, it will help to promote value addition and quality building in the food processing sector. I hope somebody in the QCI is jotting down all the points and compile them for action in a time manner. Thank you, QCI, for the opportunity, and I'll be happy to respond to any questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dave. Thank you very much. And I'm sure your comments are being noted and will be taken up very seriously. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Rennie Van Berkel, who is a representative of Udyog, to give an international perspective, what he is looking at India from the other side of the table, and what you think we should be doing for the quality movement.
Thank you very much, Chair. Namaste to all. And at the outset, let me congratulate QCI and NPC and DPIIT and MOFPI with putting this together. So UNIDO is very pleased to contribute on this Udyog Manthan and specific focus on quality and productivity because that, and with today's focus then on food processing, these productivity and quality are profound manufacturing concepts, and they are hence at the heart and soul of UNIDO as a specialized UN agency for industrial development. Though we live in the 21st 21st century. And that means that we are looking for industries which are fit for the middle of the 21st century, where we also talk then about inclusiveness, sustainability, and productivity related issues. So we look for these industries of the future, and we call that then the Sustainable Development Goal 9, which is of course also linked to the food and nutrition goals. We work primarily with the SMEs, small and medium enterprise, and the previous speaker was already referring to that food processing is a lot comprises of micro and small enterprise, and they have particular challenges. As a first introduction, I would basically like to highlight and illustrate perhaps 3 points. And I think first of all, of course, we are in, and it was already referred to earlier on, we are in the recovery period from COVID, and there is challenging times in business, and there is maybe a challenge, a temptation at times to maybe compromise on productivity and quality, and that to cut corners in that sense. And that is maybe to a certain extent also embedded in the Indian reality. If I look from the other side of the table, as the chair was suggesting, India is a large market, so even if it's a second-grade product, you can still kind of find a buyer for this, and the perception is that, okay, I get a lower price, but that's fine, so I still get it. It's not a waste, but we don't see the issue that this is a financial waste, and this is a really embedded in the MSME culture, and that's also a preference for maybe the Jugaad solution to look for something which is simple and cheap, and might not always give us the best quality and productivity. So we still have to make sure that these attitudes which have grown the MSME sector can now be overturned to really expand the growth and prepare the industry for the 21st century. So we have clearly also, as UNIDO, as the Industrial Development Organization, emphasized is that if we come back from the COVID crisis, we cannot compromise on productivity and quality, and we have to build back business from crisis, what we have done, the BC3, MSME.org, that we emphasize there that productivity needs to come in 5S, Kaizen, quality management, and related issues to bring us back on more fertile grounds. Then my second point would perhaps be that productivity and quality have today much wider interpretation. So, and it was already referred to that we have moved from product to process standards, but I think it's also that the issue is much more on changing away from a final inspection, a final interpretation to a quality assessment of your whole business as a whole. So it's a performance appraisal of the way we do business. Especially quality is not limited to the final product, but it equally applies to the way people can work there, the ergonomics, health, safety, and environment. If we create a better work environment, we motivate staff, we will have less turnover, which will help us in terms of productivity and meeting quality as well. And of course, food safety is then the key issue in the food sector, where UNIDO has been touted also under the different standards schemes that were referred on earlier on to build capacity on food systems standards and food safety standards by providing system support to MSMEs, by setting up, providing assistance on setting up lab infrastructure and quality infrastructure, but also raising the awareness of the importance of food safety for among the general public and the partnerships for that. I would also say that likewise, productivity relates to all resources that go into production. So we have a tendency to just look at manpower. So what's the labor cost and how much productivity do we then get? But there is many other dimensions of this productivity. Look at materials, the raw materials, the water, energy, and other utilities. There is, and this is what UNIDO in its work in India and elsewhere is finding, that there's huge untapped potential for productivity gains in regards to energy, materials, chemicals, and so on, in broader terms, as we call that then resource efficiency or resource productivity. At UNIDO, we stress upon the notion of resource efficient and cleaner production, and that is that we first of all maximize the efficiency of use of all raw materials. So all raw materials should go in product, water and energy. And if we do that material efficiency, resource efficiency, we have less waste. So we're better off in terms of environmental impacts. And then we also create a better working environment, which is productive. This is a kind of a vicious cycle that we could embed in MSMEs. And this is much in parallel with the concept of zero emission, zero defect, which is promoted by the Quality Council and the Ministry of MSMEs. So energy and resource efficiency are main focal areas for Udyog. Let me just share a few examples to see what is the kind of potential that we still have. With Bureau of Energy Efficiency, we support energy efficiency and renewable energy in different sectors, but including the dairy sector in 3 states initially and now 6 more states. And there's abundance of low-hanging fruits. Amul-fed dairy saves 50 lakhs annually by just repairing compressed air leaks at virtually no cost. It also invested 3.2 lakhs for condensate recovery to save annually 7.2 lakhs. Gopal Dairy installed a soft starter for their refrigeration unit at a cost of 2.9 lakh, and they save annually 4.8 lakh. Dairy installed a variable frequency drive on the ghee processing motor, cost of 82,000 only, saving 1.3 lakh. Sumo Dairy Plant put in a plate heat exchange in the yogurt unit at a cost of 4.2 lakh and save 8.6 lakhs. It's all cases where the paybacks are well within 1 year, 6-7 months payback on just the energy cost. And in the addition comes an improved processing, so better product quality and better productivity. And slightly taking this further beyond the low-hanging fruits, we work also with the Ministry of MSME and ESL Energy Efficiency Service Limited to look at more replicable but more higher cost energy efficient and resource productivity technologies. In Assam tea cluster around Jorhat, we focus on replacing heavy metal blades which are rotating to go in the withering units with just lightweight fiber reinforced plastic blades, and automating of the withering process, and also modulating burners for the tea dryers. Upon some adaptation of the technologies, each of these has a payback of just under 2 years. So that makes a very good business sense. In Vellore, in the rice milling cluster in Tamil Nadu, we're working on promotion of more modern dryer units, combine them with advanced boilers, which have investments a bit larger, 21-60 lakhs investments each, but also 2 to 2.5 years payback just on energy savings. But if we then look at the quality impact, these have huge added benefit in terms of reducing broken rice by 40%. So we incorporate the productivity gains, it becomes much better. These may seem smaller amounts, but certainly if the business is weaker as it is right now or more stressed, then these small parts are also contributing to profitability, and we should not overlook these small ones. I think then as my third point, I wanted to highlight that there may be productivity and quality are not rocket science, because that's often seen that it's only something that can be done by the major companies. But I think it's rather requires a persistence and consistency that needs to be applied, and a mindset. So that goes in terms of skills. We should look at not just the craftsmanship, but the perception of how manufacturing and food processing operates, and quality, the system, so that we do not just have standard operating procedures which are locked up in a drawer, but which are actually live and data being collected. That we look at the appropriate technology, that we look at setting up plans in a designed way, and that we also encourage entrepreneurs to take calculated risk and have a more entrepreneurial outlook in the MSME sector. I could probably continue a bit further, but I would like to maybe rather sum it up and say that productivity and innovation are a journey, not a destiny. Or you can also say it's a never-ending story. But I think the positive side is that we need to look for a mentality change to really focus on the quality of product and not compromise on that. There's a lot of value, very high quality produce available. Let's make an effort to turn that into quality produce which can be traded internationally. So maybe I'll stop here and can contribute and elaborate a little bit later, maybe on some of the technology aspects as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. Because I think I will just tell the organizers to do something on the voice, because on the chat I am hearing a lot of people, they are not able to listen to us. So I would just request the organizers to do something on that. Now coming to our next speaker, he himself, as I say, is a living legend, Dr. Jindal, and he has been part of the MSME sector in India since decades. And as a president of All India Food, he has been leading us. When I say me, means even me, in our industry efforts. So now over to Dr. Jindal and what he thinks of the quality movement. And I would also like his comments on how and what are the gaps we need to fill in the Atmanirbhar Bharat policies of the company. With all his experience, he can really help us. Over to Dr. Jindal, please.
Thank you, Mr. Khambata. All that you have said is very kind and very nice to hear. We've been soldiers together, and I'm very happy that we have Madam Rima Prakash here, because we call MOFPI as our home ministry, or as our parent ministry, and definitely Ministry of Commerce, APEDA, DPIT, and FSSAI. They are like our arms, and this is how we survive and we work, and we look forward to take India to higher levels in productivity, quality, and global brand name. I'm really grateful to the organizers, DPIT, QCI, NPC, the learned speakers, industry experts, to have come together today and share our views. My special regards to Madam Rima Prakash, Dr. Raj, Dr. Prabodh Halde, Mr. Dave, Dr. Reni Barkar, Palwal, Dr. Shukla,
Yes,
and of course, my dear friend, Mr. Piruz Kamata. Friends, it's well recognized that quality and productivity lie at the core of any successful system. We fully appreciate and honor the scientific and technical factors for improving quality and enhancing productivity. Now, given the assignment to me by Mr. Piruz Khambata, that I go a little further to look how things are at the ground level and what gaps we need to fulfill, because going further means action points, and that means to identify where the steps are required. So when we say gaps to fulfill, it doesn't mean that we are saying that not much has been done, but we are just trying to explore what lies further and where we can come into the slot and actually fill it up. Friends, industry is the doing arm of the system. And in this context, when we talk of quality, we mean consumer satisfaction, value addition, product and process validation, regulatory adherence, certification, and all that. And when we talk about productivity, we mean product availability, costing, output, supply chain, and sustenance of the products to the consumer. So these are the essence that today's deliberations are about. And let's go to the ground requirements. And this is a little beyond just quantifying some values and parameters denoting QNP. All the hard work which is done at the firm, I believe, in the universities, we have Dr. Vasudevappa here, research institutions, professional organizations, quality, quality councils, the regulatory bodies, and finally, more important, at the policy making levels in the government. All of this culminates at the industry platform and is meant to achieve the unhindered supply of material product to the consumer at reasonable prices, keeping in view the consumer's entire satisfaction. That's our goal in nutshell. And I always say, when we are in our seminars and workshops and meetings, that in any industry, profit may be the bottom line, but in food industry, that comes later. Consumer satisfaction is the bottom line first of all. So looking at that, what I would like to come right away is on the requirements. To give some examples, real product quality will evolve if we have good processing varieties and new varieties of agri produce. Mr. Dave referred to that. It's very well said. If raw materials are free from farm and veterinary residues. Now, a lot of exports and hindrance in the development of brand India is the feeling that Indian farm produce still lacks in the residues and veterinary, effects. Similarly, we need to have facilities for immediate field ambient controlled storage systems after harvesting, which also enables a very good quality product. We need to have efficient temperature monitored logistics, preferably with RF sensors for transporting perishables like fruits, vegetables, milk, etc. And Dr. Rini mentioned that the cold chain system, the milk, logistics are very important. And India being the largest producer of milk, logistics of cold chain reefer vessels are very, very important. Then we have the problem of our packaging. We need safe packaging materials which do not leach out any contaminants, metallic or polycompounds into the food packed therein, which means that this has to be an effort at a research level, at government level. It needs to combine efforts, and maybe India can show a lead in the world that we come out with some good packaging material. IAFT has already been working on it, and we are proud that as an institution uh, which is of MOFPI, it is taking a lead in this. Similarly, we talked of the good animal feeding practices just now. I would like to say good agriculture practices need to be more intensified and put in place so that we do not actually lack in convincing the foreign buyer or even our Indian consumer. For for example, here milk is not being accepted, or milk products in some countries from India, because the traceability or the or ensuring the certification has some gaps there. The second part I would like to say is that sometimes we think that making a regulation has done it, but this is not really true. For example, if we want to make our food trans fat free, we would actually need to restructure the entire edible oil sourcing, importing, and usage system. Making a regulation is just the beginning for it. The question we are facing is how all this can be done. Quality is not a standalone phenomena. It is a multi task. It is joining the hands together is not simple, and these issues go beyond the realms of the industry. And since I am supposed to uh, share points which are the doing points at the ground level in the industry, therefore I will say that some of these requirements or the action points are beyond the boundaries of the industry and require a multi-dimensional, multi-institutional approach, and more important, a multi-ministerial thinking, which Madam Prakash also referred to. And efforts are being made to have coordinating committees and interministerial secretarial committees, etc., to look into various issues. But still, it is a kind of a beginning, and we have a long way to go. And that is how the product quality will happen. Now, dear friends, coming to productivity, it is appreciated that at the first level, this is a feature of machinery and equipment. Streamlining of processes, having good linkages from one production step to another, better plant maintenance, adopting automation, imbibing efficiency, etc. Here also we have to make a beginning, because the plant and equipment designing systems in the country have still not established to the level we would like them to be, to really become exporters of plant and equipment machinery and to be having the best quality for best productivity in the country. And the point is, the struggle does not end here. Even if we have good technology and equipment, we need to see that human resource commitment on the shop floor or even in the entire organization is very important for enhancing productivity. A major work culture shift is required, and the government of India is working on it for skill development, for labor code, changes, so that a cultural shift in the work system comes in, because many times it has happened that labor regulations have actually resulted in poor productivity. Further, there are few issues on the backward linkages. We have to develop a good practice of post harvest sorting and grading of agri raw materials, which waste a lot of pre processed time at factories. We still don't have a system at the farm end where the produce is actually, sorted, graded, valued, put in different packages, and they reach the process plants in the way they are required. Now this is another training or development feature on the ground, which is important. And we have recently come across, recently mean in the past few years, about the non availability of water for industrial use in many places, because industry depends on groundwater, and this issue is also hurting us, and the government is trying to tackle it. Because if we ask the industry not to use groundwater, and food industry needs a lot of water, then what to do? It again holds up productivity. And the next aspect is regulatory and statutory requirements aspect. I would like to just highlight a few points. It's a matter of thinking positively on them, because productivity is also related to the time and energy available at the hands of the plant managers and supervisors to attend to production matters. After they are free from attending to inspectors or multifarious regulatory and mandatory stipulations. This aspect also needs to be viewed and taken care of. Presently, we have a three-tier system of central, state, and local government laws and regulations, which some of which are impractical. And just to illustrate the extended producer responsibility on plastics, some aspects of the Consumer Protection Act, filing of multiple returns, court orders on packaging, Contract Labor Act, and repeated sampling of products at distant places. All of this needs to be reviewed and made simpler and easier, so that the focus of the organization is on productivity and quality. So, dear friends, I would like to stop here and just say that time is ripe for all of us to think together as a nation, and not in different departments or compartments, and apply our minds to resolve the practical hurdles and restrictions coming in the way of ensuring a better product quality and enhancing productivity. And as learned speakers just mentioned before me, the global challenges are emerging very fast, and if we are not able to do this work soon, it will become difficult, more and more so, for us to manage in the future. As Mr. Kamata said, that if the Gulf food has to be really food India, and that too now emerging as a quality source, I mean, it's pride for us, and this is where we need to energize and gear us up for. And that is the way I think the vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat will also take off, and it calls for adopting all these proactive steps. And finally, again, thanks to DPIIT, QCI, and NPC. And I'm confident that good recommendations will evolve through today's discussions and be taken up further by DPIIT and also shared with related government bodies. And I would request Ma'am Reema Prakash also to get a total summary of today's deliberations for the ministry's review. And one last takeoff, I would like to suggest that DPIIT to take lead to say that if any regulation in the country kills productivity, it should be immediately reviewed. Thank you, friends. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jindal. And because whatever you have said really has cut some ice with me, and what I have been always saying, we always talk on same language. There are two things I will have to say. Though I'm a moderator here, I will have to talk of two things from your address. Number one, I think all India should take the lead of becoming a guide to small industries on quality. There are enough senior people in the industry who have retired. There are enough senior entrepreneurs who have time. Now, obviously, in India, we can handle young boys. So let us say a startup who is an SME, if there is somebody who is retired from Unilever or some big company and he is available, or he can all India can liaise and ensure that he goes there and helps the startup on the quality and starts this movement. Of course, at a fee. But I somehow believe that we need to really help these people to bring up on quality. Having said that, there's something which you are aware from last 10 years I have been talking of, and I am sure that I have been always saying that the government, especially Ministry of Commerce, the Food Processing Ministry, and obviously if DPIT can take the lead or QCI can take the lead, I have no problem. We should develop a Make in India, Produce from India mark. For my friends in QCI, I 10 years back, QCI was given this work by the ministry, and that whole recommendation had come from me. And we started the whole process of developing a Make in India logo. So which is a specific logo, which is not available for everybody. We can call it something else, not Make in India, but something else, a special quality logo, like let us say Pride Indian Food or something, which is only available for use for people who have a certain quality benchmark, which is higher than the regular standard. Not the regular standard. And the government supports the companies with this logo on market development efforts. I would request once again, All India Food, there would be representatives from CII, Ashokem, FICCI, because this is not something which is one association can do, only CII, only All India. We should all come together and have a quality mark which we can assure the buyer, because the buyer doesn't know who is good. Buyer may know Rasna, buyer may know Amul, but buyer doesn't know a small company. But if he knows that he has an assurance of a mark from QCI or some government body, he will be rest assured that the quality is good. So these are the two things I would like to say. And now I will like to give this platform to Dr. Chindi Vasudeva, who is Vice Chancellor of NIFTIM. And NIFTIM, as I know I am associated, has a huge role to play, and I will tell you how. That they can do training courses for entrepreneurs, their working executives, and professionals on quality. Gone are the days, see, if in my company the quality manager has probably at 20, is now at 55, he must have studied quality of food maybe 30 years back in college. His knowledge of this is probably 30-year-old outdated. So I somehow believe that there needs to be a refreshment course so that he will learn quality, and that course NIFTIN can provide, so that our working executives, and this can be, let us say, virtual platform also, or a mix of virtual and physical. So our working executives of big companies, small companies can freshen up their quality skills. Having said that, I would like to give the platform to Dr.
Yeah.
Please go ahead, Sachin.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Piraj, and thanks to QCI for organizing this Udyog Manthan. And for this, in fact, we have the respected our Joint Secretary and Dr. Rima Prakash Madam, and all the, I would say, the learned speakers, Daveji, Subodji, and of course, Prabodh, and all the I would say the learned participants in this whole program. Today, I think this is a very good initiative in terms of one is on quality, second is enhancing the productivity of the processed foods. I think these are, I would say, the buzzwords of the day, if at all we are to further progress in the food processing. I know we have been talking a huge agricultural production in the country and all that, but how much is being properly utilized? If you look at the whole thing, I think something like 670 million tons of food is wasted in India. So that means even taking care of that would also help us in improving the productivity part of it. That is one area where we need to give a lot of focus, I would say that. Why this is happening? Because we are still more an unorganized sector. Unorganized to the tune of something like 75%. Probably the organized sector are facing a little problem here, whereas the unorganized sector today, in fact, a lot of it is wasted, or a lot of it which is processed is also wasted. So that means these two things are not properly tied up. And that if we can really look at seriously, probably we can enhance the productivity to a greater level. This is where I think we need to look seriously, because in India still the food processing industry is highly fragmented and dominated by the unorganized sector. That if you take probably, I think there are a lot of, I would say, driving forces why we should be doing all this and how we should take it forward. Probably, I think one is that we are a huge country with more than 350 million people in is the urban middle class. So how do we address their needs? Another thing is, of course, promotion of the processed foods as foods. I think now slowly it is picking up. Earlier we were at 1.5%. Today we speak about 10%. Maybe in another few years we may be about 15 or 20% of the processed food are accepted as food by the urban middle class or even the urbanites. And if you look at the other countries, probably like US, France, and even Malaysia, where 80% of the processed foods people are using that. So that is where I think the promotional activity is something which is very, very important, I would say here. My Ministry of Food Processing Industries is doing a great job in terms of modernizing the whole sector, including, I would say, the other part I said, 75% is unorganized. How do we bring them to the mainstream? I think this is where the PMFME program, which we are undertaking through the ministry, and NIFTEM and IFPT both are, I would say, the nodal agencies to take it forward. So that's where we are trying to upgrade I would say, our domestic or even the equipment part of it, and also build skill and also build their capacity and capability by providing even the funding support and things like that. That is something which is very much required. And probably I wish here at this moment, the industry should link up with such of those industries or small scale industries which have capability, which can directly be, their products can be directly sourced so that the branding can be done and that will find a better market. This is something which I was thinking all the while. And of course, the fast changing, the lifestyle, this is another driving factor for us. In fact, I would say a lot of demand for Indian foods in international markets is huge. So that's where I think we need to encash. Of course, the women who are earlier not working, now they are all working. And in fact, I would say the processing industry should be a woman-empowered industry. That's where I think we are also focusing. And in fact, as Parisi said, we are building capacity of all the people who are involved in such of these activities at the grassroots level. So that is where I think, the NIFTEM and IFPT and with the support of the ministry, we are doing a lot of capacity building exercise now. And we have identified, I would say, more than 200 ODOPs. That is the one district, one product. There is a overlapping. Of course, there are about 730 districts in the entire country, of which about 200 or 250 products have been identified, for which we are trying to build the course content and the capacity building exercise, including the videos and DPRs and things like that. Probably in this PMFME program in another 5 years will definitely revolutionize the whole the sector. That is one thing which I thought I should be sharing you. So coming to the food quality per se, I would say there are very important issues, like one is the safety, the other is the productivity of it. So how do we address these issues? Of course, always the inherent characteristics are like the impurities or the contaminants and residues and the degradation of products and the microbial load and their vitality, all these things, they play a major role in terms of quality management. So unless we address these issues, how do we do it is a big challenge for all of us. As has been said, I think there have been a lot of refusals, both by EU and the US FDA. Many a times we are really driven away because, as was said, this is more I would say a product, or I would say raw material driven export activity that is happening. We are not going for the finished products. Branding is not much in India, which meets the international demands. And even I would say the food standards, we have a dual standard, like international standards are different and for domestic market, no, it should not be of that kind. Probably that is where we are trying to compromise. But at the same time, I would like to just make a mention of few, I would say, the concerns or for non-compliance which otherwise are happening, especially could be the agriculture practices related non-compliances, maybe presence of higher than approved levels of chemical residues, pest and bacterial, I would say, infestations. This is a big issue, especially with regard to the marine foods and the perishables. And of course, unawareness about the judicious use of the pesticides. In fact, there are many pesticides which are banned internationally. Still, we are using more than 50 pesticides are there, which we are not supposed to use, but we are using it. And the lack of, I don't say a lack of technology, technologies which are developed, which are required for people are not transferred properly. That means the capacity building is one thing which I have been telling it. Probably I think we should take it forward. And use of course, the alternatives, which I think, the alternatives, of course, we are slowly getting into the organics world, where the organic pesticides and things like that we are trying to use. But at the same time, people are mixing some of the chemical pesticides with organic pesticides and are using, and finally say that we are organic. So these are all things which will not stand for the support of the country in the long run. That's where I wish we need to be very cautious. Coming to the product related issues, I would say that here aflatoxins in peanuts. This is the major concern because they are always above the MRL levels and continue despite several rejections and notifications by EU. So we are not complying to the notifications or the refusals which are done by these importing countries. This is something that means we are not complying to the international standards. Of course, the products sold in domestic market are through unorganized supply chains, which again creates a huge problem. I think even the supply chain which we have, whatever you call, even the black chain also, the links, various links in the supply chain are not properly addressed. So that means we take certain things for granted on many occasions and probably end up with problems. Only when we end up with problems, we say that that is not good, this is not good and all that. So that's where I think probably we need to look at seriously in terms of the supply chain, the blockchain or the value chain management system, which again is very, very important for us. And of course, another very important thing is limited control over the farm operations. So this is where I think, and buying products from the mandis and then taking it for processing. I think this is another big area. That means the traceability issues are not addressed. So these are all the concerns for a food industry, especially for the QCI has to take a lead in this. This is where I think I feel it's very, very important. And coming to the animal husbandry, as has been said, it is the unhygienic practices which exist, including, I would say, use of chemicals in the feed. So this is creating, antibiotics are rampantly used in animal feeds to maintain the quality and all that. Finally, the milk is not good, and that's why we are not able to export milk anywhere. And of course, liver this, even the bacterial counts are very high in our milk, which otherwise has to be very, very low, especially E. coli and salmonella, which can even cause the food poisoning. So, of course, there are very, very many other things like, of course, people are using some of these, the malachite green, for example, which is being used in peas and beans to maintain to freshness or to give a bright color and all that. These are all very, very bad practices. And if we continue and the product of that kind is used for processing, I think we get into a lot of problem. Even Sudan dyes, especially in chilies, to maintain its color and all that. I think these are some of the issues which we can overcome. Only thing, the awareness has to be there, and probably proper incentivization also should take place. And coming to the processing related issues, probably the large variation between state of the art to small, I would say, artisanal operations producing traditional foods. I think this is again a big area, as I told. Traditional foods are important for us because they are produced by the unorganized sector. How do we bring in the quality in terms of hygiene, in terms of safety, in terms of its acceptability? All these things, I think, requires a special attention by everyone, including the industry. I would say industry should step in here, probably make them as partners or make them as their, I would say, bring them into their group so that they can do much better. And variable size and few large plants to small and cottage scale units. I think this is something which has been which is there. As long as the unorganized and organized sectors are far apart, I think probably this need to be properly bridged. And I would say another very important thing is, of course, the regulatory regimes are just forgotten. Maybe the food safety, quality, and all these things are forgotten, especially with regard to the unorganized sector. This is one thing where we need to really look in. And another, of course, the very important thing is like the lack of infrastructure. So how do we address this? Probably upgradation of the infrastructure, which we are doing on a small way in PMFME, doesn't really bring in the entire requirement of the food quality regime. And that's where I think we need to look at treatment of the export consignments, transportation, cold storage, pack houses, and things like that. All these things, I think, unless we do that, including, I would say, the storage facility, refrigerated storage facility using the solar energy, probably I think these are all some of the issues which we need to really look at. And coming to the other issues like issue of traceability, I think this is mainly because of the fragmented chain for the supply chain, which I already explained, and slow reactions to the concerns raised both by the exporters or the importers. So this is something which is very, very important. We need to really address it seriously. And of course, market linkages and market issues, especially linking farmers and the domestic and international markets, is something is not easy. But there are a lot of issues. We need to address each one of them in a befitting way. So then only then I think probably we will be able to address some of these issues. Of course, coming to the other important issues like the manufacturing related issues, if you look at probably the raw material quality and safety and certification need to be looked in if at all you are trying to process it. And at the process level, again, contamination free, and it should be validated to ensure that no batch to batch variations are happening. That means uniformity in the quality is something which is very much required. Of course, the final product should be consistent and assured quality. I think these are some of the issues. Of course, coming to the research part, I would say here,
Mr. We are slightly running short of time. Huh?
Yeah, 1 minute, I'll finish. I have come to that. So now research part is again, now the research on the machinery part of it. I think, the equipment part of it, I think it's lagging in India. We have been spending a lot of money on imported equipments. How do we reduce this? Probably, I think, we need to take up a serious research in this direction so that it could be analytical equipments or toxicological equipments or even the different aspects of food quality and safety. So that's where I thought, anyway, technology related, I know we are all working about it, and probably I think the validated process technologies are very important, and maybe the quality part of it, if you look at probably the establishment of good quality, I would say, labs which across the whole country, and which can even find out the traces or the minimal levels of some of these toxicants or the quality impairing, the chemicals and all that. It is very much required. And coming to the last point, I would say, and the way forward could be like the implementing domestic reforms. Of course, implement product traceability is something very important. GAP and global best practices, some of these things. Of course, the review of export control processes, and of course, always we are there. FSSA is there, and MOFP is there to take forward some of these things with all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, sir. And we are now moved to the next speaker, Dr. Preeti Paliwal, who is the Assistant Vice President, Food, Health and Beauty, South Asia, TVU SED. Ms. Preeti, can you listen to us?
Yes, Mr. Kambata. Thank you. You can listen to me?
Yeah, I can, and I can't see you, but I can listen to you.
Okay, fine.
I had one in your. I'm sure you in your address you are going to cover a lot of things, but my request is if you can also cover, because I'm sure you are checking a lot of international foods also. So I would like you to compare Indian foods with international foods and what standards we are doing. Because, for example, the point which I was making, that India has to be the export destination for the best of the products. So can you give some idea of how we compare? That also would be very helpful to the participants today.
Definitely, Mr. Kambata. First of all, I would like to say thank you so much for giving an introduction and inviting me for this particular discussion related to
QCI and DPIT have to be thanked.
Yeah, Thank you so much, everyone, and I will feel happy to be a part of this discussion with the important people in food industry. So, as you mentioned, that like your Food is known for that service industry. So, definitely, I would like to talk about that food industry because taking care of the food business. And you know that everyone is talk about the regulation, processing, and everything. Suddenly, I was thinking about like food which we used to prepare in home suddenly come in the concern for the safety and the testing. How it's possible? When we cooking any food is considered as a safe. When we are buying from the outside, it has to be considered like as a safety concern. So then I thought about okay for our ancestor time, if we consider that time we used to grow, process, or manufacturing food in the same place and consumed by the same day. So the contamination chances are very less because the food is produced, grown, and consumed in the same place. Well, if you consider the new trend, so see that now we are buying the seeds from some other place, processing somewhere else, packaging somewhere else, distribution, and the consumed by all over the world. So the contamination chances are increased in a different state. Food itself is not considered as a contaminated, but is having a lot of factor. Is contaminated by bacteria, viruses, parasite, chemical substances such as a heavy metal, and with this contaminations, a disease we called as a foodborne disease, and this is a serious issue for the globally. So that's what is a testing service or the safety or hygiene food come in the picture. So if I talk about that from the history and the current scenario, more than 200 diseases are caused by the eating food because of some contamination, not only the bacteria viruses, but is that unhygienic distribution, unhygienic packing, and other issues. So this is the global urban. As I remember, I think Mr. Davis also talked about HACCP, which everyone is aware about it, like how is considered the hygiene, and Mr. VC is also raised one alarm, like food has to test it in all stage. I'll agree with that point, but that's what is HACCP came in the picture, and the codex element. If I want to talk about that, how we are globally maintaining the global standard for hygiene. So one term I would like to mention, the codex alimentarius. This is the International Food Standards Guidelines and Code of Practice contribute to the safety, quality, and fairness of the international food trade. Because now these days, if you consider the trading is a more comparative, and the standards build particular codex. If we are, as you, Mr. Kambata, asked about that, how is the global standards and Indian standards is referring and how we are working as an India. So I would like to refer some points here, like as that the global standard maintained by the Codex Alimentarium, which considered as a hazard analysis critical control point is in short, we used to call is a HACCP system. HACCP system is not only providing that one stage of the hygiene and safe, but is ensuring the food hygiene and the safety for all stage. Means farm to fork. We suppose we are that farmers what they have to do that because this system is certified. One question will come to how we are because now these days consumer even then manufacturing processors are more alert how to select a good vendor in all stage, either raw material, either packaging, other things. But I see that some regulation, some certificate is providing. If this is a one way to select that good vendor for that particular product, either is a raw material or anything. This is a very good quality recommendation from the global as well as from India. As you know that when Codex is guided and regulated from 1960, India also won a part of that member in 1964 itself. So we are also in a part of that globally regulatory guidelines code for practice contributed to the safety and quality for the fairness of that food trade. So India as well, the globally are always be tie up with the regulations of the food, but definitely in India is a concern is raised in a few years back because earlier our food is considered more in tradition food, which is not considered as a harmful or something because we know the practices, how we are preparing and how we are growing. But now these days, as a contamination from the pesticide and fertilizers is came in the picture, so regulatory and the testing and safety is also required. When you consider that how HACCP system is providing that end-to-end product as a hygiene. So it's considered like seven principle mainly work for that. Like they have a analysis of the hazardous material which is belongs to the biological, chemical, physical food hazard, determine the critical control points. Apart from that, their control points determining they have a deviation control limits. For example, that what is, if I'll give a general example, what is a temperature and the time for the cooking and all. So every critical point is measured in that system, and establish a system to monitor control of critical control points as well. So these type of some points where HACCP system is working, and other regulatory stringent is there. Now, if we consider that, like, okay, this is how globally regulatory safety for food is working. If we will consider in India, how India is working, as we all are aware about that, India is regulated by the Food Safety Council, FSSI, is a apex for the food regulator and all. And FSI implements and enforce food regulation with the some standard X, which is considered 2006 as in FSI, they generally divided food product in India in two categories. One is a standardized and other is non-standardized. Standardized, like would like to compare between that Indian regulation, between that global regulation. So India is also developed already in FSI. I'm just talking about that PAT article for the 16 food category. If any food category considered in the same, then they have to go with a license, a kind of thing. But in the same scenario, FSI is also working to standardize more than 12,000 more food items, which is processing in finalizing harmonization with the globally regulatory hygiene process. This is a Codex Alimentarium. So food safety, in India also is having an important public health issue because there have been substantial change in the way how food is produced and processed, which I already mentioned, like method of agriculture have led to the use of fertilizer and pesticide. So, and already Dr. VC also mentioned the animals are given more antibiotics to prevent disease, which reach food for human consumption and is not good for the human beings. And food definitely is a sector where we have to work on more than hygiene and safety issue. So, but when we consider the pesticide, we have all mindset of like pesticide is not good, but definitely, but it's a chemically, I would like to say pesticide is meant to control the pest, which is a benefit for that, which is not a, it is a general topic, and it consider the herbicide, insecticide, and other things as well, insect growth regulator. And these are intended to serve as a plant protection product, not for that some bad bit, but definitely this is a like okay, plant protection from the weeds, fungi, insects, and deters incapabilities to kills or otherwise discourage pests. But limitation of uses has to be identified, has to be acknowledged, has to be guided to that farmers and the different food chain. And I agree with that. Like in between, Mr. Dev mentioned, Mr. Raisi mentioned, like we are have to control in all steps, not only the food processing industry or the, from the farmer to and the distributor and the consumer as well. So this education and provide to respective field has to work. So this is how India is working for that regulatory and the safety concern. So I would like to mention, like as you mentioned, Mr. Khambata, like Indian food category now these days is mentioned as a very good quality product. Everyone is good food. So I'm happy to know that because it's the I think hard work and the practice from the service industries as well as FSINM who is stringent to make testing for that, like is a FSI requirement twice in a year for their production, new licensing. But apart from that, I think if we can consider in different stages, like farmer or educating not only that the processing industry, that I might be will be beneficial for that food industries as well as for that Atmanirbhar Bharat. So, and one more thing also, like I think you remember like pesticide and DDT. It's considered as a harmful, but what happened is the DDT is a cause for that, like saving a million of people for the malaria. So few things definitely is a generic topic, we consider as a harmful or something, but it has to be a some scientific evaluation. I agree with your point. Like MSME industry is coming in the picture, like has to take a lead with that regulatory experienced people who is retired and like HUL retired people, IT so whatever. So we can utilize their strength to align that MSME industry and control for that India, like how we are generating and how we can maintain our DNA for that particular India, like considering as a comparative good quality product in all globally. And I agree with Mr. VC as well. He mentioned that two points. One is that the standards is differentiate between that export and the domestic. I would like request to maintain a one standard because it's that higher good quality product we are exporting, and that lower limit of that we are using for the domestic. We all are human beings, so might be we have to be in the same limitation. So might be we can work on those lines for that perspective. And even then, I'm happy with that. Like MOFPI is working for the providing a fund to upgrading a laboratory and infrastructure, to giving us strength for the food testing laboratory in India. So really, I'm like part of that for few projects with them. So we are waiting for that, but it's a really good initiation with the Indian regulatory team as well as for the government who is initiating. I would like to say, like everyone individual, as Mr. VC mentioned, every individual has to work on that their respective area. So I will give a one reference like about Mr. Narendra Modi. He initiated. We never thought about okay, India can be a lockdown for more than one day or more than weeks. Now it's a month's time. We never expected, and we are more innovative now these days. So what happened? And I think Mr. Kamat, you can hear me. I'm listening some.
Sorry, come again. What did you say?
Yeah, you can hear me because I.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So I will not take much time. I know that is a time is running out of that, so we have to finish that. So I would like to say that if we can, like Narendra Modi, not individually he can do that, but we supported him like to motivate the frontline people to clap the things and lighting the diya before Diwali. So every individual needs to be a part of that particular program. And in place of, I would like to recommend like regulatory people or that government people. If they can give the education from that different type of area, like in the sense of farmer for their, I think we are giving a more education and digitalization with them as well. So we can be proud to be tell, okay, aap mein now these days. So this is from my end, and rest over to you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your insights. And now my friend Mr. Prabodh Halde, who is head of regulatory affairs of Marico. Prabodh, you are expert in a lot of fields, but I have one question which I was going to ask you later, but because of lack of time, I think you have to answer this question. Priti also mentioned about it. She said Indian standards are easier than the international standards. I believe in a lot of categories the reverse is true. For example, America allows synthetic colors than India does, and the limits of additives in America and FD are much higher than India. So actually, and many things practically, I can give up to a number of examples, honey and whatnot, where Indian standards actually are better than international standards. So, but I would definitely like to have Dr. Prabodh Halde's comment because he's much more learned on this sector, and also give his, because I think your address is the last, but in my mind the most important, because you are a practicing quality head of a company and R&D expert, so you can possibly give us a lot of insights. With Dr. Halde, please.
Thank you, Piruz. And the last but not the least, and I think it's a very beneficial to speak at the last because you can cover up, and I will not repeat what my earlier, all the respected speaker, and most of are my gurus, and I have learned the food technology and the regulatory and the business from them. First, to start with JS ma'am, and Piruz, you also open up very well. JS ma'am has given a lot of schemes. Subodh sir, Dave sir, then Mike, and then Priti ma'am, and the VC sir particularly. I have two slides actually I prepared because I was told that a lot of startups have joined. And friends, if you see in the lockdown, now 10 months are over. First lockdown started on 23rd of March, and we will be now completing 10 months of lockdown just in next say 10 days or 15 days. So what has worked in the lockdown and what we realized in lockdown? I think we realize I'm sharing two slides, which is if I request admin, if you can make me a presenter, I want to share my slides. I have very focused two slides. Is this visible? My slides are visible to you? Can somebody say, can somebody?
Yeah, it's showing. Yeah, it's saying starting to show light. Yeah, we can see it.
Okay. See, I have made very. Okay, I have made very two sharp slides for this program. Based on, I believe that a lot of students, startups, and the small medium businesses have joined this. And QCI, I congratulate you for choosing such an important topic, which is the food processing. I think every country has its own food. You will get surprised. Out of 194 countries, India and China are the only countries who have retained their traditional food. All other countries have adopted the eating habits of other country, like colonization or whatever the other things, the migrant came from other countries or ruling of other king have actually changed the food habit. If you see today corona, the impact of the corona is the least in India, and one of the thing is the eat right. Eat right is what we have eating, our habit of eating the traditional food. You will surprised to know that our food science and nutrition and Ayurvedic wisdom is one of the oldest and one of the scientific best. Nala Paka Darpan is the 7,000-year-old book which has given the food science and nutrition of that time. It's a wonderful read. My request to all the participants to understand and respect the wisdom of traditional food in light of modern science. This is an area of future. If we don't, then who will? With science, we should respect the tradition and the wisdom of the Ayurveda. These are the very sharp ideas. I am supporting more than 200 startups. In this pandemic, I have delivered more than 120 webinars. I might have addressed more than 80,000 students. In this pandemic, we have seen the only two businesses were flourishing. One is pharma and other is food. Kirana shops were working for 3 hours to 6 hours and we were lined up to eat the food. Some sharp ideas of startup: personalized nutrition, organic, all natural, traditional, vegan. This sector is going to grow. E-platform. We have seen Zomato and Swiggy has absolutely revolutionized the hotel industry. China's loss at the export is the India's gain. Already so many other earlier speakers have talked. So I don't want to repeat it, but export is a huge potential subject to you have a quality product. Home cooked food will be a big game changer. After having eating at home for 9 months, you will go to the 5-star hotel and will expect to have a dal khichdi made at home. Processing food are considered as a safe food. In this pandemic, we have understood that processing is not something which is less of nutrition. I think processing is a value-added product, safe product. That is a change of mindset. Plant-based meat, green processed food, safe food, intermediate product. So many people like me learned how to cook because of the YouTuber. In this YouTube learning, we wanted to have intermediate products to make my cooking easy. So intermediate product industry flourished, which is absolutely a middle and small scale businesses. Loose food will go down, packed food will increase, cloud kitchen, traditional food, equipment science. I think it's something very ignored area. Every food technology institutes, we should focus on the Indian equipment which will compete with the international. So we will reduce the import. Ayurveda food. I have written to the Ayurvedic Ayush secretary that every food technology college should have an Ayurvedic department. Every Ayurvedic college should have a food technology and food nutrition department. So wisdom of the Ayurveda should be learnt in the modern science and there should be a sharing of the knowledge. I personally feel Ayurveda will be the next mantra. Functional food, nutraceutical, protein, high actually the high fiber food, convenience food, ready to eat, ready to cook, on the go, immunity boosting food, brain food, mental food, cut vegetable. I think these are the areas which any startup with quality and safety. I have not mentioned the quality because quality is a given. Without quality, you don't think about the food. If it is not a quality, if it is not a safe, it is not a food. In this startup, in this area of pandemic, there are two mantras of success. First, we have to understand what is your strength, and working on your strength and working with other person who has complementing your strength is the success mantra. I am closing this with one remark saying that anybody with having a talent win the game, but if you are having a teamwork, you will win the championship. I think food industry, along with the teamwork, we have to win the championship and support Make in India, Atmanirbhar Bharat. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Halde. And we have very less night now time, but I have promised myself that I won't speak much because I think I am much. I have spoken many on many forums, and I've got a lot of speeches on websites and YouTubes. So will take this opportunity to ask questions because we are now only 15 minutes. So I am going to compromise my speech, and I would prefer that we take questions from the audience because with such learned speakers, we can probably answer their queries. And there are a lot of startups. They may also want any knowledge they want either on regulatory aspects, quality aspects, government aspects. Please speak out. And who is going to moderate the chat box? If you can come on the line and tell us how we are going to do this question answer.
Sir, so far we have not received any question in the chat box.
I can see, I'm seeing some questions.
Sir, there
I
are
am
few
seeing
comments.
questions.
There are few comments we have received. I can announce it.
Okay, then I think that if you ask me, let us keep it open for the participants. If any participants have any questions, kindly put them in the chat box. And in the meanwhile, I have one or two questions which I will possibly ask our speakers. In the meanwhile, my request is to any of the participants. If you have any specific questions to anybody in the panel, please put them right now on the chat box, please. And I have only a few questions. And I will probably put my questions from the perspective of the QC lab first. And I would definitely like Preeti to answer this. Preeti, I believe that in India, the general feeling is that our government labs are lacking the infrastructure to check the quality. And that is why people have to move to private labs, and there are a lot of issues which are coming. What do you say, and how do we strengthen the government labs, Preeti, with your experience in a private lab?
Yes, Mr. Kamba. What happened actually? You rightly said, government lab. Say or otherwise MOFPI, if you consider that they are working for the granting the upgrade their own labs in a different type of city. But currently scenario, because you know that for India, food safety concern raised in a few decades back only, not a long-term time. That's what, and if you consider that globally has a raise a lot is a long back. So they already developed because mainly for that critical reference material serums is not available in India. We are depend on that globally lab. But if you, I just discussed recently with the NABL and FSA, they are working for that internal CRMs as well as the upgrading for the laboratory. Then for us in India, we will have a very good setup as well as our internal standard to develop those methods and deliver the service. So it's in the picture and we are progressing on the same time.
Thank you very much. Prabodh, there is one question which I have in mind. That we are talking of Industry 4.0, artificial intelligence, and all these things. How do you think that can be leveraged in the food industry, in particular artificial intelligence, because that is something which is changing the manufacturing landscape almost in all sectors?
Piruji, I think artificial intelligence and also big data bank and also the machine learning, these are the areas Indian food industry has to adopt it within 2 to 3 years. You know that in our QC lab, in our R&D lab, so much of data is already available. The buying, the product mapping and the quality, what actually Jindal sir and you also mentioned, in our horticultural crops, we do not have a processable varieties are separate and the table varieties are separate. So the data bank which is available, artificial intelligence will absolutely give us the sharp decision points, what particular things we can do the yield improvement, also the yield improvement and also the less of the processes losses. Artificial intelligence will definitely get adopted in the bakery, where actually beverage industry, bakery industry, alcoholic beverages, where the yield has reached up to 99.2%, but how to make it 99.8, 99.9. So artificial intelligence in the R&D can be a big leap. We have to understand how to stop the failures. The data, the analysis part is very weak in India. What we see, even in the food safety, the number of sample, we called about the risk-based sampling. So the sampling also needs to have the risk-based approach. So artificial intelligence can adopt some kind of, and it is not necessary, sir, artificial intelligence should be at the higher level. Preliminary level of segregation, what is required. So even 80-20 Pareto analysis is also artificial intelligence. It is not about which tool you use. It is some kind of intellect you adopt while taking the decision. I think, Pirush, just to make you, and this artificial intelligence, machine learning, big data, all these things will have a good impact into the food processing sector, and there will be takers on this, and the leaders like you, we should start adopting this. Maybe we are an organized sector, that's why adaptability will not be 100%, but 20% of our sector will definitely will get benefited to this new. Actually, it's like ISO came in 94. That time we used to say, what is this ISO, what is this HACCP? But now it is a must thing for export. So same thing for the business continuity. It will be a big future, I personally see, and the college students should get adopted to these new technologies.
Thank you.
Can I maybe
yes,
also
Mr.
comment?
Vedberg, please. I was just 1 minute. I was also going to ask you one question. You can also answer this. And there are a lot of startups. I would like you to give a message from your side to the startups also on what they should be doing, young entrepreneurs in particular.
Yes. Okay. So let me comment on Industry 4.0, because I think that and the sort of artificial intelligence and the other technologies, I think it will play a role in terms of predictability. So we can predict the yields, what will come in and what will happen in the markets. So that will help us in better logistics and value chain management, supply chain management. I think it will also be a key role for traceability. So we want traceability, organic or marine stewardship certified fishery product or other issues. So that will be possible only with the advanced digital technologies. And then I think there is a lot of potential also for process monitoring. So a lot of food actually gets lost because we don't process it rightly. We cook it too long, or we cook it too hot or too cold, and so on. It's just so process instrumentation. And then the biggest challenge, I think, is for us to start using the data, because I see many MSMEs and other sector in food and other sectors as well, they have excessive number of Excel spreadsheets and have no clue what to do with the data. So we need to build a capability to deal with this. That's the artificial intelligence. But I would also like to highlight that UNIDO has emphasized that it's not only about digital maturity in terms of how well do we use digital technologies, but we need to combine that also with increased manufacturing capability. So manufacturing excellence needs to be married with digital excellence to really get the benefits of Industry 4.0. So I think for the startups, I think that UNIDA has not really done much work on the startups in the food processing, but we do a lot of work in the startup for the clean tech area, so technology-driven startups. And there, I think that the biggest lessons that we see is that the startup entrepreneurs need to have a two-pronged agenda. One is on increasing your product proposition, your product value proposition. So how well is your product perceived in the market? And that is where young entrepreneurs are often very good. But then the second point is to also pitch you so that you are investable or bankable in that sense, which means that you need to be an investor. You can only bring the products to the market if you have an investor behind you. And this can be aligned, but it can also not be aligned. So one can just add more value to the consumer, but it might not add a value to the investor. So there is the issue of product development and of business development. Think about how you can grow. So it's it's important to sell your first shipment, but it's more important to sell your 1,000th shipment. So where do you want to go? And this is, I guess, where the entrepreneurship would come in, where entrepreneurship needs to be driven by, and which is not rocket science, but it's more competencies of people. So I don't know whether that answers part of your question, but that's at least the work that UNIDO is doing. You're muted, Prius.
And any advice for the young startups you have?
I think persevere and take calculated risk. So it's not going to be easy straight away, but persevere and take calculated risk. Look for opportunities. I don't think that be open to take also the advice from others. I don't think that you have all the solutions yourself, because as a small business, as a startup, you cannot do all it yourself.
Thank you.
Hello, Mr. Computer. Apologies to interrupt. Sir, we have received few questions in the chat box.
Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Yeah. One question from Mr. Amarendra. How can we make food safety at farm, plant level, and transportation distribution level mandatory?
Anybody, any of my esteemed panel would like to answer this question?
Probably, I think he's addressing the issue of the Industry 4.0. I would say that because these are all the value chain segments which are being addressed through, maybe I think there are 9 strong pillars of this Industry 4.0. One is the big data and the analytics, that is what has been just now discussed. And then autonomous robots, which also come into play, especially with regard to quality management. And third is the simulations, horizontal and vertical integration systems, and probably IoT, Internet of Things, cyber security, even cyber physical systems, the cloud computing system, and even the manufacturing augmenting reality, which addresses all the issues right from the farm to the fork. In other words, we are getting into more of digital technology, which can be implemented at different levels to understand the quality concerns and also to maintain quality. That is where I think, probably I think it's a way forward, which I feel it has to become a reality. Maybe it will take much more time. That's what I wish to say at this moment. Otherwise, I think even now the what you call the no, of course it is easy in a stationary system to monitor and manage all the activities. During transportation, of course, there are many gadgets which have come in to assess the quality, the moisture, the temperature, and things like that, and its impact even on the quality of the product. I think these are all the issues which we need to address as a sort of a blockchain. That's what I wish to say.
Thank you.
Firuji, you asked one question about the regulatory environment in India and the regulatory comparison with the developed countries. I think India is much more. Let me tell you, India process only 7.2% of fruits and vegetables. Our packaged foods are less than 10%. So our loose food is above 90%. This pandemic will increase the migration toward processed food towards packaged food. But our implementation of the regulations and if you map the regulatory requirements, I've been to US, I was trained under USDA, we are much more on the basics. Yes, because of our implementation is not uniform, we believe that it is a weaker regulation. But let me tell you, our framing of the regulations are much better than any other regulation, because I've been in the regulatory field from last 14 years. I personally feel India got one of the best regulatory regime on the design frame. Our design is one of the fantastic. Dr. Dave sir is there. He himself was in FSS and Codex. I think we are no less. Only uniform implementation because of the topography of the country, social impact, economy of the country, penetration, literacy rate, all those challenges are there. That's why the belief is. But let me assure you, the consumers, look at the number of episodes of the poisoning in India, much lesser than any other country. Look at the US, how many poisonings are there? In India, very less poisoning cases. So our industry is very responsible industry. There might be cases, but Piruji, I've always feel that our industry and the regulators are far better, and very responsible industry is in India. So it is like I'm talking about organized industry. Those who are having some different kind of objectives, no need of discussion for those people, those who are in the irregularities and they lose market. But organized industry is always very responsible and responsive. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other question, Ms. Mukherjee?
Sir, there are few questions, but not directly linked with quality and productivity. Okay. So
then let me end. All good things have to end, and I would once again end by thanking the organizers for giving us participants such a brilliant opportunity. And I definitely am championing always the cause of Make in India and Atmanirbhar Bharat now from many years. And I somehow believe that Atmanirbhar Bharat doesn't mean only inward. Atmanirbhar Bharat doesn't mean no import. Atmanirbhar Bharat doesn't mean closing our borders. On the contrary, it means how India can be part and compete in the global ecosystem by actually manufacturing for the world. by ensuring that we open up our borders, and by ensuring that we get our rightful place in the world economy. And most important, for ensuring self-reliance, for ensuring that we are stand on our own feet, we are able to make everything which we possibly need. And most important, Atmanirbhar Bharat means the what I call enhancing the full strength of our farm sector. I think enough has been done in the urban space. We have to somehow go rural. We have to somehow ensure that we work in the farm sector, we work in the rural sector. And I think that is the need of the hour, which I would like to tell all the participants. There are a few freshers who have asked questions that what we should be doing. There is no place in the industry. My suggestion is please go in the farm. Start putting up small units in farm. Let us start working with the farmers. Let us start ensuring that we work with the rural community. This is my message. And of course, I would like to request the government of India through this forum. There are a lot of other pending reforms. Of course, there are some labor reforms which are across all industries. But in food processing industry also, we need a lot of reforms. There are a lot of outdated laws, unnecessary criminalization of laws. There is no need of criminalization of laws, ease of doing business at the state level, central level. There are issues with FTAs which India has signed historically. So I would also suggest the government should really put all these reforms on the front foot. There is much more to be done on the reform front. Please don't tie up the hands of the industry. We can't swim. Forget an Olympic swimming pool race, even an Indian race with our hands tied. Please free the industry up. Industry is wanting to partner with the farmer, wanting to partner with the government to really work on this Atmanirbhar Bharat mission. With these words, I would like to once again thank all my fellow speakers for taking all their time and the organizers, and thank you very much to the participants for bearing with us all these 2 hours. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Khambata.
Thank you, Piru sir, for a wonderful your coordination and guidance. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you
so much.
See you one of these days. Chalo, bye.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. In fact, I would like to just summarize this up. In fact, this has been a very enriching Manthan, which touched upon various aspects related to quality and productivity in the food processing industry. And as JS ma'am, Ms. Rima Prakash mentioned, we as India, we are the largest producers of milk and livestock population globally. We are also second largest producers of food grains, fruit and vegetables. However, when we look at the value addition or processing, we currently process less than 10% of our agri output. Like, for example, when we take fruits and vegetables, it's only 2% of what we grow, we process. Similarly, though we are the largest milk producers, we process only 35% of milk. And therefore, most of the processing, whatever is done also, is largely classified as, primary processing. And therefore, there is a need to ramp this up. And that is where insight from all our esteemed panelists touched upon a lot of things. Like, for example, when it comes to, regulations, Mr. Dave suggested that industry needs to supplement these regulations with the best practices, including bringing in technology, which all speakers actually mentioned, including Mr. Burkle and other speakers. Like, it is not only about capacity building of people or bringing the cultural change, which has to be there, but there has to be technology for right processing. And this must include traceability in totality, and also it has to be done at every stage of food chain. Mr. Khambata emphasized, it was very rightly put, that the large industries, because we have challenges with MSMEs, small sectors, and the unorganized sector. Basically, large part of food processing industry is unorganized. So as he mentioned, that the large industries and senior professionals in the sector should come together and handhold the MSMEs and startups. I think that's a very valuable suggestion that came forward. Similarly, as Mr. Burkle also said, that though we are developing the capability, like, for example, Vice Chancellor sir mentioned that we are developing a lot of courses, a lot of things are being done, and there is going to be a cultural shift amongst the people while we develop the capacity. But there has to be also focus that must go beyond cheap labor. And adoption of technology will be key in enhancing this, whether it is about the processing rightly, or whether it is about traceability or predictability of the raw material to the processing. So as rightly suggested by everyone, the need of the hour is to move up the value chain in processed food products by establishing quality and productivity as the foundation to contribute to the nation's food security as well as enhance food exports. So that is where we've got a lot of wonderful nuggets from all the speakers, panelists, from Jess ma'am, and also from our moderator, Mr. Kambata. And these suggestions, these recommendations, they have been taken well, and they will be compiled into a compendium, and that would serve as guiding post for policy decisions also to realize our Prime Minister's vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat. So with this, on behalf of DPIIT, Quality Council of India, NPC, and all our partners, I thank all the dignitaries present here for today's session. And first of all, a big thank you to JS ma'am, Ms. Rima Prakash, for sparing her valuable time and being here and setting up the context, helping to shape up today's deliberation. We would also like to thank Mr. Kambata for steering this entire session so well, bringing out a lot of important aspects into the forum. And also, I thank all the panelists for such a meaningful deliberation, which highlighted the challenges and opportunities with respect to quality and productivity in the food processing sector. We also thank all the industry participants for joining us for this interaction, and I hope that these deliberations were enriching for them. Last but not the least, we also thank the NIC team as well as QCI team for all their hard work, without which this would have not been possible. So thank you once again. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Thank you and all the best. Thank you.